Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Communauté. I am your host, Nathaniel King. I go by Nate. And this is a talk show. So I just want to remind you, if you didn't know, that you have the opportunity to become an audience member by, signing up for the Discord channel. The Discord channel is $5 a month. It gives you access to partake in the conversations live that we are having. And when we have guests, you can participate live. And then it also, your contribution helps for the growth of the community, the kingdom community, with our business plan and stuff like that. So if you want more information on that, you just have to go to the link on the YouTube channel. It says, I think says business um, structure maybe, or something like that. It's a different kind of form of a business plan. It doesn't have the SWOT analysis or anything like that on it, because there's different projects and each project has its own SWOT. So stuff like that. But anyways, it's kind of like the layout of the business projection. So yeah, just go to the website, to the YouTube channel, check the link. Also, being an audience member allows you to make comments and stuff on the videos that are posted on the YouTube. I'm trying to figure out a way so that you can, audience members can directly comment on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, the the community contributes or comments inside the Discord channels for the videos. So lively discussion and sharing your opinions and your experiences without being judged, or without trolls trying to tell you you're going to hell or something to that effect. That's the objective. So today the episode is why the knowledge of God must be taught, right? Sorry, I was reading it. I have my notes here to the right this time, not to the left. But it's a frustrating question for me, because I don't fully understand why it must be taught. I don't have a clear understanding of that reason, and particularly because, well, humans are horrific at this, conveying information and knowledge, and they like to hide information and knowledge. And so, you know, I was born into a family who had a vague understanding of who God was. And my parents went through some kind of rough times or whatever, and had us in the midst of those times. And we were my brother and I were just kind of stuck in, and so, my parents had us, and, my mom, she became a Christian, or she was baptized, I should say, and became just kind of this religious, I mean, I don't want to be rude, but just fanatic sort of thing. And just with her temperament, it was just not a good, in my opinion, and I've told her this multiple times, but in my opinion, it was not a good fit. I understand why she did it. I don't think that it was a good idea, because religion isn't God. Religion is man-made, and it's one of those things. It's like drugs, or smoking. Some people handle it, or drinking, and other people just should not be doing it. And that's kind of one of the things that happened. But thanks to that, God used it anyway, because thanks to that, I was introduced to the notion of God, but I was never introduced to who God was. But because of what my mom did, I think she really did see, and I think she still does seek God. She let herself get hung up on some things, which I understand, not judging or anything like that. But because she sought after God, I was able, more than the things that were being told to me, the things that I saw her, kind of her own personal testimony, were the things that spoke out to me the most. And my mom, I know, is not a liar. She has lied to me. I mean, obviously she's lied to me, but not like on purpose sort of thing. Sometimes you just accidentally, you just end up lying or whatever. I don't hold any of that against her. But by and large, my mom always tells me the truth. And the one time where she did do a huge lie to me, she confessed it very shortly after. I don't know why, what possessed. And the crazy thing is, she lied to me about something that was really just basic. She did something, and it was her beliefs, her religious beliefs that do you understand this, like, too? Because I mean, I guess she made this. No, I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but like she struggles with my homosexuality, right? And she struggles even more with the fact that I have sex with men, and that I was am married to a man, and and she was trying to figure out, what had caused this, and some of her religious leaders were telling her. She watched some video. The guy was telling her, or saying that, it was because she was too, maybe mothering or something like that. There was something that she did that caused me to be gay. And so she modified something that she had given me, because I left it at her house and I wanted it. And then she had modified it. But before giving it to me, she told me that she didn't have it. And I was like, that's strange. I was pretty sure I left it at her house. And then she told me that she lied about it, and that she had modified it. And I'm like, this is how you should know. This is one of the things that you should know. Your religion is causing you issues, because if you are a person that prides yourself on being loving and not lying, but then your fear and your religious beliefs cause you to lie for the good of somebody else, I think that there's a problem. You should reevaluate that. So, anyways, that was a long, long digression. But the point is that I learned a lot from her life, from the things that she had lived, until now. Or maybe, a number of years ago, like I said, she's become stagnant, unfortunately. And I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it, but I continue to pray for her, because, I do want to see her, just living her best life. But in any case, everything else that she had taught me, everything that that I learned in the church, everything else I had to forget and let God teach me themselves. And that was very difficult, because it was scary, because all I knew was my community. I'd grown up in my community, and to learn that everything that had been taught in this church believes that it's the remnant church, according to what's written in, I don't know where it is. I think it's in Revelation, but I could be wrong. I can't remember, but they believe that they have all the light that there is to have, which is absolutely quite possible. I don't know, but whether they have it or not, they don't use it correctly. So, by and large, they don't use it correctly. So, just, I don't know. But so they didn't teach well or show well who God is. And so this is why it's so frustrating for me. This question is like, why would God like consecrate that very important information to humans who are ultimately going to fail, right? Just did like I don't know how I got caught up in it. Like I said, I just had a notion of God, and I guess that was enough. I suppose, I don't know, because it was the first time, if I remember correctly, is the first time when I cried to God in my distress. I heard an answer, and I suppose that became like the building blocks for me. So, anyways, I do think that it's part of the curse that we have. I'll talk about that later, from sin. That's why. But humans are frail. They're liars. The best of them, manipulators. They lack understanding. So I just kind of feel like consecrating that information to a bunch of feeble liars in large, by and large, is not a good choice, because one of my biggest complaints is I did not know God. Like, how can you? I know God that doesn't hold this against me, right? But even so, like, I've gone I had gone at least 20 to 30 years without actually knowing God, even though God was in my life, you know um yeah, even though God was in my life, like, working things out. I didn't know. No one had taught me. I had no mentor, so no one had taught me, oh, listen, um God is trying to speak to you, or whatever. People run around here talking about their prophets and all this other crap, and boo boo boo, and just, but there is it's God is not like a concept. God actually exists. How do you convey that? How does one human convey that to another human? I think it's possible, but it's just a messed up kind of situation. But in any case, the knowledge and understanding of God does need to be taught. I do not personally want to see other people, go half of their life or 20 years of their life not knowing who God is, if it's absolutely possible. Now, you can do it if you choose to, obviously. It's your life, you know. But if it's something that you really want to know, I want to tell you as much information as I have, and I'm consistently learning. And so I try to tell you everything that I have learned in my own personal life, not because someone has told me. I disregard those things now. Not because I read it in the Bible. I disregard that as well. I tell you everything that I've experienced and I have lived, which correlates with the Bible, right? So I'm not telling you what the Bible says. I'm telling you what I've experienced and what I've learned, which ends up correlating with the Bible. And I believe that is the way it's supposed to be. I don't believe it's supposed to be. I believe if you're trying to take the Bible and then apply it to your life, I think that's putting the cart before the horse. I think the Bible speaks of Jesus. There's no sense in going to the Bible when you can go straight to Jesus, and you can go to Jesus anywhere. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion. But when you go to Jesus, the Bible is a testimony of God. When you go to Jesus, the Bible is testifying of Jesus. And so then you're like, oh, this and that. And and the Bible was really cool also to get promises to kind of open your understanding to the things that you can ask God for. That's one of the main things that I use it for. But it also, when you start to know who God is on a personal level, the Bible, when you start reading it, you start to understand why it was written that way, and why these people kind of would have thought the way that they did when they wrote their, you know, letters or books or whatever it is that they wrote. It's a very interesting phenomenon. But in my opinion, you should go God, Bible, not Bible, God. You know, in my situation, I had Bible, but the Bible was preventing me from seeing God. So God told me, along with multiple other things, stop with the Bible, follow after God. That is what I did. And then the Bible started making sense. So, but in any case, what I was saying is that we have, if we can, we have to teach who God is. And so, as honest as I can, I try to teach what I know. I try to convey what I know. And so this concept of kind of conveying God, we your kids are born. I'm not having kids because that is a huge responsibility, and I'm not dealing with it. Plus, I'm not a huge kid person. So, all that noise, oh my God, no, I can't deal. But anyways, but kids, if you're having kids and stuff, they need to know who God is, and we'll talk about that or why that is later. But God, the Bible, speaking of the Bible, speaks about it, and I wanted to read you something here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So this is found in Deuteronomy 6:4-25. And it starts off, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." So you might have heard this before. If you've read the Bible, you might have read this before or even heard it from someone quoting it. I love it. I actually have this whole part memorized. But it, and it's like, "And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon," okay, well, that's it. It's like, "And these words which I should command thee this day shall be in thine heart," right? So, and that whole text right there is talking about it's supposed to be a part of you. Now, people read that and think, "Oh, this is what I have to do." No, that's not what you have to do. It's what will happen when you seek after God. And that's one of the things that people just do not understand when they read the Bible. The Bible isn't a list of, you have to do this. It reads like that because that's how humans wrote it and that's how humans read it. But that is not how God, it's never how God is. It is, I will cause these things to be a part of you. And if you read this and you're stressed because you're doing the thing or you don't understand this or whatever, you tell God. You don't try to double your efforts. Take it from me. I messed up. I tried to tell God. I tried to combat what God had promised me with things that I had learned in the church, and in my religion. Do not do that. Do not do that. It was devastating. I made it out, but who knows if you will always will. But just go to God and just tell God and explain to God what you're experiencing and let God show you what the issue is and go to God just with an open heart. So anyways, and here it says, "And it shall be," so this is verse 10, and it says, "And it shall be," verse 10 of Deuteronomy 6, "And it shall be when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob, to give the great and goodly cities which thou buildest not, and houses full of all good things which thou fillest not, and wells digged which thou diggedst not, vineyards and olive trees which thou plantedst not, when thou shalt have eaten and be full. Beware, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage." That is a huge issue that humans face. And that is one of the things that I'm most scared of, is this journey that I've been on with God. It has been illuminating and very fatiguing and very angering, and very painful. but it has been, it's been one of the greatest and most painful and the most painful kind of journeys of my life. And I'm so afraid of, when God establishes me as they promised, that I will forget and that I will go back to, you know, not really seeking after God. And that is something I don't want. And I have told God, you will have to remove me from this earth if that happens, because I don't want to do that. That's not something that I desire to do. So I want God's promise, but I do not want to forget. It's not even just I don't want to forget. I want to be continuously active and kind of like pushing towards knowing who God is. I'm hoping that they will find some way to make that happen. So, but it says, ye shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God and his testimonies and his statutes which he hath commanded thee, and thou shalt do thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord, that it may be well with thee. And there was a text somewhere. It says, verse 20, and when thy son asketh thee in time to come, saying, what mean the testimonies and statutes and judgments which the Lord our God hath commanded you? Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and the Lord showed signs and wonders, and everything after that, right? So, and we all know that this is how kids learn, is by showing them, telling them, and showing them in our actions. And so, since that is the way that we learn, God is saying it's necessary that you teach them, right? Teach them about me, because they can't see God. But you remember, hopefully in your life, you remember the things that God has done for you. And so then they know to continuously call on God. And there's something very different, very, very different. Do not fool yourself thinking I'm doing good because I'm forcing my kids to go to church, or forcing my kids to read the Bible or something. No, God is not homework. Getting to know God is like getting to know your parents or your brother or your sister or whatever. That is what it is about, right? Do not teach them that the only time that they can talk to God is on their knees in the morning or in the evening, or at noontime or whatever. Do not teach them that they have to read their Bible a certain amount of times a day. Do not teach them that they have to pray 3 times a day. Don't teach them that they have to go to church all the time. Do not teach them. Don't try to force that down their throats. That's not how you're doing them a disservice. Because that's what they will learn, because that's how humans learn. They learn law and litigation. But God is not about law and litigation. And it is because of law and litigation that we are found guilty. That is not what you're trying to teach anybody. You are trying to teach God the love and caring that God has taught you. And God's love and caring encompasses everything else, right? So then you start to learn, what we consider the 10 Commandments. What we see that we know that these things that are written in there happen within us because the Holy Spirit causes them to happen. It is not something that we force ourselves to do. Now, obviously, don't go around doing stupid stuff like killing somebody and being like, oh, well, the Holy Spirit didn't stop me. No, don't do that. Right. But then there's this concept, which it's really hard to explain because you can't just say it. It's, God works and you work. in tandem. It's not God works in place of you, and it's not you work in place of God. It is you. You both work at the same time. When you know that you should not be killing people, don't kill anybody. Why? Because you wouldn't want someone running around killing you. That's not what you would want. Don't do that to other people, right? As much as possible, this is how you act, right? But there will be times when you slip up and do some things, hopefully not killing folks, but like, you know, when you're coveting, which is one of the easy things to do, or even like committing adultery or something to that effect, those things which, you know, you just find pulling at you, it becomes one of those things which are of the heart. Those are the things, all of the things, but especially these types of things, you do the best that you can, but you also take that to God and be like, I don't understand this. This is what I'm doing. I'm, scared, or this is how I feel. What should I do? Just lay it out to God. God will show you. God will show you the way. So there's also the Great Commission, I think is what they call it, in Matthew 28:19-20, which is go ye therefore and teach all nations. So even when Jesus was on earth, he was like, go tell other people about the goodness that you have learned of God, of the Father through me, right? And so the disciples knew, and that's what they tried to do. They tried to go out and just tell as many people as they could about God and about God's love. They still, unfortunately, were very, very legalistic, and that didn't go over very well. But they tried their best, and a lot of people learned of who God is. But I still think that there are things that weren't done then that God is really trying to portray. And I think that now God is really bringing it out, right? Is what it looks like to live and thrive within God, So so I said one of the things that is kind of difficult. I mean, one of the reasons why it's necessary to teach others about God, to teach your kids about God, is that the world and humans are dangerous. The world is dangerous. Like animals are dangerous. Like the natural disasters are dangerous. Everything is just dangerous and constantly trying to snuff out humans. And humans are constantly trying to snuff out humans. In fact, we're the main reason why humans get snuffed out. So this is one of the main reasons. If it's just for self-preservation, one of the main reasons why you have to know who God is. And the problem that I've seen in a lot of people is they will claim to know who God is, and they will, because they've read the Bible, and so they assume that they know, they have a relationship with God because they pray, and they do not have the protection of God. And then a disastrous thing happens to that person, and then everyone watching is like, oh, well, God did not protect them, or it was God's will. And I don't think that that second one is just from personal experience, because I lived through that. And the first one isn't that it was God's, it was, it was like God's fault. It isn't. It is man's fault that all of these things have befallen us, but it is God who wants to protect us. But it's not just about reading your Bible and going to church and praying and thinking everything is hunky-dory. It is not. And if you are wondering why you can't heal, or why so many people are dying around you and stuff like that, let that question be something that you ask God sincerely. right? You will start to understand what a walk with God consists of. It is not one of those things where you just read the Bible and everything is fine because you've told yourself that you believe. You do not believe. You don't believe because you don't know. You don't know God. And people, I told some people on a forum a while back that we should be able to heal um, and raise from the dead. It's definitely something that we should be able to do. And they were like, "Well, how?" And I was like, "Have faith." And so they were offended because they were saying that I was telling the people that had died and stuff, and all of these wretched causes that they didn't have faith. Um, but the truth of the matter is, it's true. Unless God was said, unless God told these people, um, you are going to die, like unless God warned them and told them that this is the case, because God does allow people to die. John the Baptist was beheaded, but John the Baptist, and that's a very good point. John the Baptist was put in prison, and John reached out to Jesus, and Jesus was like, "I'm with you, right? Like, don't lose your faith. I know this looks bad because it's going to end bad, but don't lose your faith." Jesus also told the disciples that they would be killed, right? It's just sometimes that these things happen, right? But by and large, the blessings and the protection of God and the protection of God was upon them until the very end, right? And they knew even Stephen, right? Stephen looked up and saw, I think he saw Jesus, if I'm not mistaken, when he was being stoned, and even Jesus was um, put on a cross, but then he rose again, right? So he died, but he rose again, as will these disciples and these apostles and people who followed him. But other than that, like, if you haven't been told, if you know and follow God, and God has not shown you that something tragic is going to happen, and it happens, then there's a problem. Yes, there is a problem, because you are supposed to have an expected end. Read Jeremiah. Was it Jeremiah 33 or something like that? You are supposed to have an expected end, but Moses didn't. Moses had an expected end, right? Elijah didn't even have an end. Neither did Enoch, right? These are examples of what it's supposed to be like, right? And unless God is telling you, like Samson even told God, "Take me out, but I'm taking some of these other people out with me," right? Like, this is the walk that you are supposed to be having with God. And so if something tragic is happening, that tragedy should not have you kind of complacent and being like, "Well, it was the will of the Lord." You don't know if it was the will of the Lord because you didn't ask God if that was God's will. Like, why are you so comfortable just chalking it up to, happenstance, or this is God's will? You don't know. You didn't